Yo, what's up? It's your boy DJ Noble. Yeah, it's another live stream right here down in the dungeon. It's off the grid. I got a couple guys with me. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Go ahead, Tommy. No, I'm good. I'm a Trey Nine man down here in Houston, Texas. Um, a father of four, husband. Run a nonprofit called Eyes on Me Inc. And used to spend a lot of time putting out Christian hip hop music. Um, and just love Jesus, man.
Oh,
What's up? I'm Tommy Urban D. Colonin, originally from Philly. So, I'm celebrating a
oh
little bit tonight.
Lord.
But I've been a Tampanian. I've been in Tampa now for 29 years, crossover church, and have the honor to be the lead pastor there. And also, that's where we host Flavor Fest, the Urban Leadership Conference and Hip Hop Music Festival. And so, yeah, we're gonna have a conversation tonight about perseverance and longevity. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, before we got on the air, Pastor Tommy, you were telling me about that's pretty much the theme of Flavor Fest. And I had no idea. When I invited you on this show, I had no idea that's what it's going to be, man. So
Yeah,
that's pretty dope.
yeah. Longevity is our theme for this year as we celebrate 25 years of doing the conference, training about 7,000 leaders in total. So I
Mm,
mean, it's crazy what God has allowed us to do, and we're still here and we're still making impact. And so we really just want to help other leaders out there. Like, how do you have longevity and still stay healthy? Have a good marriage, that your kids still love you, that you're still happy, you're not burned out. And so we really want to give leaders tools because both Trey and I and yourself, we've been in this for a minute, and there's a lot of people that were right by our sides that were peers of ours and doing amazing things, or maybe even above us doing even greater things. And now we look and see that they're not even around, or they
mm.
burned out, or crazy stuff happened. And so, man, we want to help leaders stay healthy and keep loving Jesus, man, through it all. And so, yeah, so let's get it.
Now let's do it. Let's do it. So let's talk about perseverance. What does perseverance mean to you? Let's start with you, Trey.
Yeah. I think it's being willing to count the cost, um, and last, endure, not just start out well, but finish well. And it takes perseverance in between the start and the finishing well, to to really say you have perseverance. And so that comes with, of course, trials. It comes with tribulations. It comes with temptations. It comes with failure. To be able to persevere, you have to be able to overcome all of that. And so for me, it's meant a lifetime of seeking first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. For me, it's meant whether it be when I went through a divorce, whether it mean when I'm attacked or slandered, whether it means going bankrupt, all the
Mm.
things, you still
Wow.
get back up and stay focused on the kingdom. That's been the story of my perseverance, is just being able to endure all that.
Mm.
That's good.
Tommy, what about you? What does it mean to you? Perseverance.
Yeah, I think in our microwave culture, everybody's looking for like one quick answer, like one
Mm.
silver bullet to get to the destination or whatever we're striving to do, right? But
Yep.
whether you're in ministry, in business, in music, whatever your field is, it's never usually just one miracle that gets you to the destination. It's a series of God doing little miracles along the journey that kind of gets you there. And not that you ever fully arrive, but God shapes us and molds us on the journey. And it's a
Right.
beautiful struggle. There's, I think, almost at any moment, all three of us on here can relate that there's been some incredible highs and some incredible
Mm.
lows at the same exact time. And it's like you feel bipolar sometimes. Like in one day, there can be a huge ministry win, and then there can be a tragedy that happens at the same time. And so,
Mm.
you have to learn to navigate those emotions and those feelings and stay grounded. And that's why to have perseverance, first and foremost, you got to stay grounded in the Lord, spend time with him every day. Like Paul said, die daily. You got to die daily, because this flesh can, it can raise up when all this opposition and all these things come your way that you didn't even expect, because there's going to be unexpected, trials and tribulations. Like James chapter 1, verse 2, count it all joy, my brothers and sisters, when trials of many kinds come your way. Because what does it do? It shapes perseverance in you. It shapes endurance in you. And then that passage also talks about, like, don't be in a hurry to get out of it. And we're always looking for, like, the shortcut, the cheat code. We're looking for the way to get out of it real quick. And we're looking for the hack. But like, go through it, and the Lord's going to walk with you through it. But you're going to get conditioned. You're going to get stronger. You're going to get molded and shaped more for the future to be able to have even more. Last thing I'll say is, a guy said to me last night, we had a new members party at our church, and we were hanging out, and he's like, man, how do you like do all this, man? This is like so much. And I'm just like, man, I didn't get here overnight, bro. I've been here 29 years, and just step by step, day by day, the Lord continues to, expand your capacity as you stay faithful. He's faithful.
Awesome. I got a question here, because I know in ministry, a lot of times, what is like the lifetime of a pastor or someone leading the church or ministry? And isn't it like 3 to 5 years or something like that? Something crazy like that.
Then they die after 5 years. Then they're dead.
Right. Have you guys ever thought about quitting at all?
Go ahead, Trey. You were talking.
Yeah, no, I was saying, I think that's the stats for a youth pastor. Really.
And they tap out and they go try to be a lead pastor or an evangelist, or they start a business or something. But their youth pastoring that'll kill you.
What was the question?
I mean, what has there been a time where you really wanted to quit? And if you did, what was that like? And what did you have to do to get out of that situation or get out of those thoughts?
Well, anytime you're carrying the burdens of a lot of people, you might expect that people are going to appreciate it. And after so much of that you feel like you're people maybe taking advantage of you, using you, and then you think, like, these are people you could check out. I mean, at any time you could say, I'm going to go work amongst this people group, because this people group is too hard. I've had those types of situations where I was like, why put myself and my family through such difficult soil and put up with it when I'll be fine if I don't do it, But then I look and I think, well, for one thing, manure makes for good soil. So for me to stay in it, I've seen the fruits of countless lives that actually did benefit. And then you think about who your real adversary is. It's not flesh and blood. When you realize the schemes of the evil, and you can get wise to that, which comes in time. Yeah. Because if you act out of the flesh, these relationships and these burdens that you carry for people, even though you're doing it as under the Lord and you're doing it for the Lord, it doesn't mean you don't have real emotions and real feelings that get hurt or get wounded, or the cost becomes too heavy because of the time you're investing into people constantly. After a while, I remember I had a season where my stomach started having problems, and I went in to just check it out. So much so to where the nurse said, have you had this or that or that? And I was like, no. And they said, do you have a stressful job? Because the gut is tied to stress. Right. And I said, I never thought about it, but I think most people would say I have a stressful job, but this is what I've been doing since I gave my life to Jesus at 18 years old. I've been in it. nonstop. I never look back. I feel like it's my role as a Christian to suffer and to deal with this stuff. And so when it starts costing you your health, and when you feel like the earthly reward is not there, you do start to think maybe it's time to quit and check out. However, I can tell you this from experience. Tommy, you might be able to back me on this. Every time I felt that way, God would do something, some kind of experience. Somebody would be sent. Somebody would say something. A door would open, and it would be God saying, "See, I got you. Don't worry. Endure. Keep going. Persevere." And I would be like, "That's enough to go the next mile." And every time I would get to the point of wanting to quit, because it can happen at any moment, God would do something to reignite and energize me.
Mhm. That's dope.
Yeah, I could definitely I could be a witness to that on those moments when you get discouraged. God will always come through in some way to, encourage you to say, keep going. Look at the fruit. Look at the receipts.
Mhm.
For me, I'm like, guess I'm built a little different. I'm kind of like an eternal optimist. I am. And I think one of the advantages I have at Crossover, at the church that I'm at, is I've always had the freedom 100% to be me. There is a board of elders and we do have structure and all that, but everybody is really like on the same page. They've always been. They're supportive. I'm a creative. I like to try new things, and I've just never have had like pushback, because I've always, whenever I've done something really radical, I'll take it to the elders and be like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And sometimes I'll adjust it by their counsel. Other times they'll be like, "Let's do it." They're as crazy as me. But so I've never had some of the things that a lot of pastors and leaders go through, where there's internal like politics and fighting and people pushing back on the direction of where the church is trying to go. So thank God I've never had that. So I really honestly haven't had a lot of moments where I felt like quitting what I do. I love what I do, but there's definitely been those moments, like Trey said, where you get tempted to be like, man, this soil's hard. Urban ministry is hard. People that are coming off the streets, that you have to disciple them, they don't get better in a few weeks or months. You look at the suburban churches that blow up, they got like 1,000 people coming in like the first year. And it's just all these people that already were in church and they moved to the new suburb that's being built, and they're looking for a church, and they planted a church in the new high school. And so now it's just blowing up, in the urban context, the multi-ethnic context as well. It just takes a lot more time, and people could come to our church at this point and see all the people and all the impact. But I'm like, man, this didn't happen overnight. There was years and years of grind, and there's still years of there's still grind right now. I worked 12 hours today, and that's not
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to be done, and I love it. And I take my Sabbath. Monday is my Sabbath, and there's also some other days that are not as heavy as that. But I'll say this: the one time I did think about quitting, Trey, was during the pandemic. and Noble, I'm a people person, man. I'm an extrovert.
Right.
And your boy was struggling, man. We were closed, and there was no contact in person with people hardly. It was all this, and this gets old after a while. I get zoomed out. And I mean, we were doing a grocery drive-through on Fridays, and about 30 volunteers would come to it. We were out in the parking lot just giving out. To me, that was like the highlight of my week. I get to see other people, and we're giving out groceries, and we get to touch people and pray for them, and we're wearing masks and everything. But it was a crazy time. But in July of 2020, we were about to reopen, because in Florida, there wasn't really much cases. The regulations weren't that serious. A lot of churches opened in May and June in Florida, reopened. And so we were like, yeah, we're going to wait a little bit. We're going to watch all the white suburban churches open up and see what they're doing, and just let everything get a little more normal. We're going to open up late July. And then we had a wave of COVID cases that hit Florida, like June, beginning of July. And suddenly, like, we didn't know anybody that was sick. We're like, yeah, I don't even think you can get it in Florida. It's too hot, right? We know people in New York got it, you know. But anyways, people started getting it, and we knew people that were sick. My daughter got COVID, and, you know, it was like, we went and got tested. I tested positive, but never had a symptom. I got blood work. The doctor was like, nah, you never had it. Like, you ain't got no antibodies. You're fine. So anyways, like, we had to push back and postpone the reopening indefinitely. We're like, I don't know when we're open.
Wow.
We just don't know right now. Stay tuned. And we were doing great online, but I was just like, man, like, I didn't sign up to be an online pastor. And like, we've been doing this for months now. And I don't know. They say this is the new normal. What if it's years that we have to keep doing this? Like, this is horrible, you know?
Right.
But other than that, we did end up opening up October of 2020. But other than that, and I can say, you know, the Lord has just graced me to be built for this, and I love it. So yeah, I'm gonna keep doing it for a little while longer.
That's dope. You guys bring up that multicultural. I know you guys are both involved in multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-generational type church. What does it take to get to that point, or how does God put that together? You know, what are the steps to make that happen? Either one.
I'll jump in and answer because Trey's on mute. I'll say, first of all, man, like, it's biblical. If you look at the New Testament church, the majority of the New Testament churches were multi-ethnic, multi-generational, like Jew, Gentile, people of all different classes, different ages were worshiping together. Not that didn't cause some tension between the Jews and the Gentiles. Paul had to deal with that, had to deal with Peter. There's a number of things. But in essence, like, churches were multi-ethnic. In a few communities, they were mono-ethnic because that's all that was there. But the majority of them were multi-ethnic because they were reaching the whole community, the whole city. And so as I look at that biblical model, I feel like the church in America, you know, lost that for a long time because of racism and all the separate things. And, you know, now about 20% of churches, roughly around 20% of churches are considered multi-ethnic. That's growing. A decade or so ago, it was only about 10%. So it is definitely shifting and changing. Praise God. But I think, first of all, you got to say, man, you know, are we going to love all of our city? Are we going to love all of our neighbors? Now, granted, you're going to have a certain style at your church. It may not appeal to everybody, but can you still welcome everybody and try to intentionally reach people? And we've been about that intentionally at our church. And our church skews younger. And for me, like, I grew up in a multi-ethnic environment. It just wouldn't be normal. I mean, my home is multi-ethnic. Your home, Noble, is multi-ethnic. You know, Trey, I know you've had all kinds of people in your house as well. I mean, that's the life that we live. We're hip hop as well. Hip hop is multi-ethnic. And so, I mean, it wouldn't make sense to have our church be anything but that. And that, I think, is what most younger generations are looking for. Anyways, if it's just one group of people together, it's kind of weird. And it's not really a great witness for the Lord. So, but does it take some work? Absolutely. But for us, the last thing I'll say is the multi-ethnic, multi-generational piece isn't really even that hard for us because it's organic, it's natural, it's intentional. We teach and preach on it. But the third one, the multi-class one, that one takes a little more work. It really does. Because you could have two dudes that are African-American sitting right next to each other in my church service, and they're in totally two different worlds. One guy runs a company with 50 employees and has multiple degrees and manages millions of dollars. The other guy still stays at his mom's house, has 3 babies, mamas, is struggling to get by, and they're both the same age, but they're from totally two different worlds. And say that with Hispanic people, white people, whatever, like, there's people of all classes at our church, and they'll be worshiping right next to each other, serving right next to each other, breaking bread right together, cross-pollinating, which is beautiful. But the thing that can be a challenge sometimes is beyond Sundays, because Sundays, they'll vibe to the worship together, they'll vibe to the word, they love what's going on. But the discipleship piece, they're at different places, educationally, experience-wise. you know, the way that they learn, all those things. So discipleship has to look different for some of the people that are in different classes. And not that they still can't be discipled together, but you just have to realize like everybody's not on the same exact level with certain things. So you have to be open to, so we have multiple things that we do at the church with discipleship. We have groups and we have classes that are academic, and we have corporate gatherings, and we have mentorship things, and a men's ministry and a women's ministry, and a lot of different things on a buffet to choose from because it's a diverse group of people. And we say, hey, you don't have to do everything, but you have to do you need to do something outside of a Sunday worship service. And here's, you know, the buffet of options to help you keep growing in your faith. And so we don't have it all figured out. We're still always trying to get better and growing and learning from others. But yeah, that's what I'll say. Trey.
Hey, before Trey says something, can I just plug something in real quick with what you just said, Tommy?
Yeah, it's your show, bro.
It kind of reminds me, this kind of reminds me of like the Christian hip hop fan base, right? So people get saved at different points of their life. I got saved when I was 28 years old. I had no idea that you existed because I think you were already pushing out music by then. I didn't know who the Cross Movement was. I didn't know. Yeah, I just got introduced to the Truth. I definitely didn't know who Trey 9 was. Like, who was that guy? Like, you guys were doing music for a while, and because all I knew was Jay-Z, NWA. Like, that's all I knew. And then boom, I was introduced. So, and then of course, there's kids that grew up, you know, from the time they were born, like my kids, you know, that got introduced early. So it's kind of interesting how, you know, and so people have different opinions on who's the best Christian hip hop artist or whatever the case may be. Like, you just have this, I guess, kind of classism in the sense, the ageism, or, you know, but it kind of goes back to with like even, you know, understanding the word of God. You know, the baby in Christ, they could be 40 years old, right? And they have no knowledge. And you have this youngster that's 15 that knows the word from front to back. You know, it's just kind of interesting how that all kind of fuses together.
Yeah. A lot of it is, for me, is I grew up in a predominantly Black and brown neighborhood. And so when I got saved, you know, I was already into hip hop culture. And so it was natural that when I got saved, I would be going back into where I was most comfortable. And so my diversity stems from how I grew up. And then when you think of an organized ministry like Eyes on Me, we're a nonprofit 501c3. We go and establish our roots in neighborhoods that are predominantly Black and brown, but we mobilize people from, I call them prevailing model churches, that will come in and serve. And that's just a touch point to get them to reach out and touch someone different than you. And then when it comes to executives like businessmen and women who, you know, they look and go, oh my God, you're in that neighborhood, or oh my God, you're working with them guys from prison. We created programs where they goals coach these men and women. And so now you got a rich executive meeting with a person that came from prison or from a very hard life of addiction, goals coaching them in finance, family, and career. That's really, and so it's been healthy and productive in creating a very diverse community, which we like to consider ourselves one church in Houston, although we have house churches in many different zip codes that gather on a particular day for what we would say is the gathering. But from house to house, you know, we're connecting as one body of Christ. And we're even at the point now where we're multiplying into other cities and other countries, and we're connected city to city, region to region. And so what I'm seeing is through those efforts, grassroots efforts, like I remember when I met Tommy, he had a skate park outside of a little church, a little building where Flavor Fest used to be held.
I remember that.
And so that diverse community of hip hop, and then guys like me and Tommy growing older and being able to build the bridge, it only further deepens a church culture that is becoming more diverse. So I have a lot of hope for the future church, because now I'm not the guy saying, Pastor, would you help me do this? Would you let us rap for your youth group. Now we are the one that determine the pathway for the church, because we're in our late 40s and 50s, and some are in their 60s. And so it's a beautiful thing. And to me, it gives hope for the church that guys like Tommy don't have to ask permission. Like he said, we get to live out our visions and dreams and desires and what God puts on our heart now, instead of being in subordination to some elder who's stuck on tradition.
Right.
Yeah.
So that brings some hope for everybody, that, you know, a diverse church is on the rise, and it's going to continue to grow.
That's dope, man. And I was just thinking about, you know, a baton, right? How do you pass the baton on? You know, as a lead pastor or a lead in your organization, how do you instill that trust, or how do you know it's okay to pass the baton or delegate certain things to certain people?
Yeah. You follow the example of Jesus. I mean, Jesus, he obviously worked with these disciples and found them faithful over many, you know, several years, 3 years. And then Paul comes along and does the same thing with guys like Timothy and walks with them, and they've been tried and they've been tested. But you got to be intentional. I mean, there's pastors that don't make any disciples. They just preach a sermon. They never had one disciple in their life, and definitely no disciples in their ministry. So in turn, I drive around some of the hoods that we're in, and I look and I'm like, that church is boarded up. That church, they had no successor because they didn't make any disciples. They just preached a sermon on Sunday. And so if you want to have succession and be able to pass the baton, you need to invest deeply in the few in order to have some successors, versus focusing on preaching to the masses. And that's why when you look at a rock star YouTube preacher, he may be relevant now because he has a fired up sermon and message, but it's the guys like Tommy who are pouring into the few, the core, the leaders, that he'll be able to pass it on to somebody. So when he dies, you don't see the whole church die. Same thing with me. Right. I have people in the ministry right now that are leading in work that I did early on. So I'm always working myself out of a job. One day I will not even be probably a face or a hand in Eyes on Me. It'll be a whole new remnant of people. I go to places like, we have communities like Brookshire. I go there, they don't even know who I am. and I'm the guy that started it. They don't know who I am, because we've already begun to hand that off to faithful people who have been doing this for years under our leadership, that are now empowered to carry it forward. So that's powerful.
That's powerful. Pastor Tommy, what about you? How do you pass that baton on?
I'm not that old yet, bro. Nah, man. My you know, I did turn 50 now, so you know, it's definitely got me thinking differently now, thinking about legacy and knowing like this next decade is my last full decade to be in the seat that I'm in the position that I'm in. I'm not going to be one of those guys that preaches at the same church and tries to lead it till I die, and the church is dying at the same time. Because you know, churches and organizations, if you study business and stuff, they kind of do this bell curve thing, and many times the bell curve happens because the leadership that's there doesn't let go, and then it begins to decline. Yep. But you see organizations that, you know, they might plateau a little bit, but when they pass it on to the next generation, it has a whole nother, you know, reiteration of moving growth and moving forward. And so, you know, I've been at the church 29 years, 23 as the lead, but 29. And so I'm like, you know, maybe I'll do 40, you know, maybe I got 11 more years left or so, whatever God has. And I see myself still being at the church, even beyond that point, but I am going to pass the baton, you know, in another decade or so, maybe 10, 12 years, whatever, to somebody younger to be the lead visionary. And, you know, I'd still like to be on the team, you know, as a healthy leader and healthy empowerment to, hey, I'm there to preach a little bit. I'm here to coach. I'm going to do a lot less as I'm getting older. I'm going to travel maybe a little bit more and coach other pastors. And so we're starting an urban church network this year. And we've been praying about that and planning for a couple of years. And the year that we would have our 25-year anniversary would be the year we would officially launch that. And I've coached lots of pastors in coaching networks and stuff on Zoom, actually over 100 different pastors, probably about 125 now. So I've done a lot of that, and this will be sort of like that, but on a next level of really trying to pour into leaders and help them have longevity in the urban context and be healthy and have community. Because the reality is guys like me and Trey, we're pioneers, and like nobody really was doing what we were doing before us. And so even now that there's more people doing it, they're far and few between, and many times they might be the only one in their city or one of the only ones. And so they still feel alone. And so, they can come to something like Flavor Fest, or when Trey did the All Eyes on Me events and stuff, and they come together and it feels like, oh my gosh, there's people here that get me. This is my community. This is my tribe. But to gather in person once a year and then maybe get a few phone numbers or whatever, it's great. But what about beyond that to help you have community in between? And so that's what we're going to be building with the Urban Church Network is, doing monthly gatherings and, things like that online, and then doing annual retreats with the pastors. And then also Flavor Fest will be part of that, doing some stuff for the pastors' wives. So there's a bunch of stuff that we've been working on behind the scenes that we're going to launch soon, because we want to see leaders be, healthy and have longevity, and their churches have healthy succession. And so for me, I see in the future, and I kind of come out of that lead role, I'll probably do more with, training and helping other pastors as I become, more and more of an OG. Me and Trey were already officially OG. Yeah, even right now in these next number of years, I mean, there's a lot of young guys I'm discipling right now. Some guys in my church that are in Bible college that are in their 20s, and so just looking and watching and saying, let's see what God does with some of these guys, and they could be some of the next ones. And of course, we have a teaching team. I'm not the one that preaches all the time. I travel quite a bit. I was gone this past weekend preaching in Maryland, and one of the other pastors preached, and everything goes off without a hitch. 3 weeks ago, I was preaching in Atlanta at Pastor Scott's. Shout out to Scott Free. I was at TL, and my wife and our men's ministry director, they kind of tag team for the women's ministry and men's ministry that Sunday. And so, yeah, we were already we've been on a team teaching, rotation, and that's what we do to empower other leaders and give them a platform. It shouldn't be in a diverse church. You can't just have one voice. It needs to be a diversity of voices. And so, but yeah, I'm excited to see what God does over the next decade or so, and who emerges. And but yeah, we've been definitely praying and planning for those days. I want to leave the church super strong, that it gets even better when I leave.
Cool. That's awesome, man. I'm excited. I mean, I'm already excited, man. It's what, it's crazy, man. Every time I come to Tampa to crossover, it feels like home. It feels like family. And I've only been there a handful of times, been to Flavor Fest a few times, and been to service because
you gotta retire and come down to Florida, man.
Hey, that's an idea. I'm not against that.
Bro, what was the temperature today where you were at?
19, 15 degrees. That's without the wind. That's not even the wind chill included.
You guys got snow on the ground too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. From 2 nights ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had to put a foot of snow about a month ago that didn't melt until about a week ago. So yeah, it's pretty cold up here.
Like today, I was outside, man, walking the dog in my shorts and my slides. It was 82 degrees today. We had to turn the air conditioning on in the house. I mean, this is Florida winter. I mean, we did get some cool weather a few weeks ago for a little bit that was unseasonably cold, but now it's like back. It's averaging around 80 in the daytime, 65 at night. No humidity.
I'll tell you what. The only thing my sons complain about, because they're obviously in Lakeland, right? Well, one of them is now. The other one came back home, but the one thing they complain about is that it doesn't feel like Christmas during Christmas time. It's too warm. It's like,
it can be a little weird. We have had a couple cold Christmases, but you ain't gonna get a white Christmas, that's for sure.
Hey, look, if you have opportunities, just hit me up, man. You know where to find me.
Yep.
Hey, but a couple more things.
You still got some snow recently too, right, Trey?
Yeah. It could be 30 degrees tomorrow and 80 degrees the next day. It's
Yeah,
it
it
can't
swings
even
over
call
there,
it.
but they
Yeah.
still have some warmth in the winter
Absolutely.
sometimes.
So I know you guys got to go. Thanks for taking your time to join me, because I know, Tommy, you're an hour ahead of us. So I definitely appreciate you, hanging in there with us. But just a couple of well, I'll say one question, then we'll kind of wrap it up in a sense. It give me one piece of advice that you were given that kind of you kind of remember still. Like that's a weird way to phrase that question. What's the best piece of advice you've been given? That's what I was looking for. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
What would you
Go
say,
ahead.
Trey?
You go. Yeah, I got to think about this.
All right. Well, I can't say like it was the best piece of advice, but it was a piece of advice that was right. And that was that everybody that's on your team right now is probably not going to be on your team as your organization, your ministry grows. And not everybody's going to be able to go to that next level. And some of my mentors told me that in our early days when we were seeing a lot of growth and God was moving. And, we were also thinking about, man, we're outgrowing this facility. Both of you guys went to the old spot and, we outgrew that for years. We were like doing 3 services and trying to make use of every little patio space and all the stuff we did outside. But man, I argued with some of my mentors. I'm like, nah, man, you don't know our crew. Like, we family. We're gonna be doing this till we're 80, man. Like, we got each other's backs. Where, that was in the first couple of years. But then as time went on, and the ministry grew, our responsibilities grew, our influence grew, our maturity grew for some of us. Others got stuck. And the cracks began to show of like, man, maybe they don't have what it takes to go to the next level. Maybe they are holding us back, because we felt like we were kind of like hitting the lid for a couple years there. And it's like the reality was we had to grow. We had to grow up and change in some ways and change some of the people that didn't need to be on the bus, or some people needed to change seats on the bus. But I remember like in 2008, almost our entire staff was changed that year, which was really hard. Some people left because of they were called to do other things. Some people we had to let go. One person moved. Someone went through a divorce. I mean, it was just a number of stuff all happening within the course of a year, and it was a whole new team. But at that moment, that's when like it broke, and we kind of went to the next level. And then that's when all the doors began to open up for us to, go to the new facility. And, the team that we previously had, just to be real, some people weren't, they didn't have the capacity to do that. And so that's something that, I've had to tell other leaders, and share that advice that not everybody's always going to go with you. Some will grow into it, but some won't. And it hurts and it sucks. And I love those people still. But yeah. All right, Trey. You had enough time to
Yeah, I did. No, I got it. Yeah, it's very simple and very practical. And I didn't really realize how much I've applied it to my life when I heard it. It was just to work with people in what they do best, so that you can invest your time and energy into what you do best. And so bringing that to the home, I don't know how to do landscaping very well. So I employ people to do landscaping. In ministry, when you're the founder or the pioneer or the one that started it, you could think that you need to stay in the top spot. What I found is that there was somebody that could be in that top spot better than I could. So I gave the title of executive director to a person that could do it better, and he does it better than me. Most people, when they start something, they're the founders, they can hang on to that top spot, so to speak, right? And instead of being willing to hand it over because someone does something better, they're concerned about the title. And a lot of people fall into that trap of, I got to have the title of this or that. We do it with spiritual gifts, prophet and pastor or bishop or, prophetess or all these titles, right?
Mhm.
And so I think the most effective thing within our, just the growing, whether I ran a record label that was putting out Christian hip hop, or whether it was an award show in Houston, or whether it was starting a nonprofit in the inner city, or now, establishing community centers, is I look for people to do the stuff that they're best at while I focus on what I'm best at. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And that's been key to a lot of the I think success of the things I've done. Is I have no problem decreasing, I have
Mm.
no problem surrendering titles. I don't have to toot my horn, because I realize that if I'm not making Jesus famous, then I'm failing anyway. And so the idea of hey man, I think you would be really good at taking over what I used to long to hang on to. I remember when I was doing Hip Hop Hopes in the streets, I was the host. I controlled everything that happened in those outreaches in the streets. And then a guy named Driven came along. And at one time, a guy named Pyrex came along. And when they hosted, I saw a greater impact. And so I was able to kind of say, you know what, you host. Let me fall back and focus on making sure the food is there, making sure that we're connecting with people, making sure I'm planning the summer camp. And then eventually somebody else could do that better. And then I began to hand that off. And so, just not feeling like you have to do everything. I know some guys that they just do everything. And I'm like,
Yep.
Surely there's other people that you could empower to do some of this stuff. But if you got to hang on to all the power, and you got to do it, okay, you can cut your grass, you can paint your house, you can clean your house, you can do, and then for your ministry, you can be the shot caller, the head in charge, the one everybody praises and looks to. But those are the people that ain't still around, like me and Tom. Those are the people that didn't last because they were trying to do it all.
That sounds like burnout.
That's what it leads to.
Yeah.
That's why I say, like, Tommy hasn't burned out. I haven't burned out. And integrity, what are you doing when people aren't looking?
Right.
I think it's hard though, man. I mean, it isn't easy to last, and that's just the best piece of advice that I can think of right now. Of course, there's been a lot along the way, but that's the best piece of advice that I feel has stuck with me, even in its simplicity.
That's good.
Got you. That's good. That's good. Hey, I just want to give a shout out to somebody watching. I don't know who it is, but it's Poppy, your dad. Poppy, your dad.
Sound like somebody Tommy would know.
Did you bring him in? Came from. So, they asked a question, and this has nothing to do with perseverance. Did you guys see can you see the questions in front of you?
No.
You guys can't see the questions at all. Okay, so the question is, what did you think about the halftime show?
Yeah, go ahead, Tommy, because I don't have much to offer.
I just want to answer the question, man. Like, okay, you gonna ask the question?
Well, I did watch the game, but the TV I was watching on, I was up in Maryland, up there, and the TV kept glitching in and out. So during the game, it wasn't that bad, but during a performance, it was, because you kept losing the lyrics. I watched some highlights of it. But when I watched some of it live, I wasn't even paying attention to it fully because just the TV I was watching it on, unfortunately, the signal kept cutting in and out. But
I could comment then.
Go ahead.
I watched the whole thing, but I was at one of our centers where we had a big Super Bowl party and everybody was watching, and I watched the whole performance. I don't know a lot of his lyrics and a lot of his music like that. I tend to not follow a lot of secular music, but I can speak from a visual standpoint. I know some people say it was boring or whatever, but I know how hard it is to walk around as much as he did, to hit every cue, and to be able to lyrically remember your lyrics, and to be able to just stay on the rehearsal of everything that he put into that. So as far as what I saw him do, a one-man show, pretty much. Without any help, to be able to do that and execute the way he did, I know that's hard work, and you got to give respect for that. As far as any subliminal messages and things that, people always pull stuff out. I mean, some people were reaching, saying the triangle, and it's,
Yeah.
and so if there's anything like that subliminally that was happening, I missed it because I didn't catch it yet, and I haven't went back to do my research because I just don't have time. And so from a creative standpoint,
I watched some of the highlights and of people explaining what was happening because I wasn't able to watch it all in real time and follow it because the TV I was on was glitching. And of course, he's had this beef with Drake, and so there was definitely some jabs that he took. I didn't realize that the girl that sang was one of his exes, Drake's exes, and then the girl that was crip walking was one of his other exes.
Serena Williams.
Yeah, it was kind of like some jabs he was taking with that. Then there was some political jabs as well, and they had this guy dressed up as Uncle Sam, and so there was definitely
Samuel Jackson.
Yeah, Samuel Jackson.
It was a real Uncle Sam. It was
a real Uncle Sam. So there was definitely some other undertones that was very well thought out. But again, when I watched it, I wasn't able to follow all that and catch it because but watching some of the highlights, so
I'll take that over some strippers performing. I'll take that over all the trash we've seen in the past. Like I'll take that.
It was pretty tame and family friendly overall.
I mean, but did you expect anything other than the song was about Drake? I mean, we knew that was his hit song. That's
right.
Yeah,
he got a Grammy for it.
We expected that.
Yeah. I mean, I'll answer the question. I was impressed the whole time. I didn't know what was going on. I was like, man, it's 24-0 or whatever. I couldn't even think, man. I just saw him on the screen, man. I heard some songs, and I was like, how are we going to get back in this game? That's the only thing that was coming across my mind the whole time. Man, it stinks, man. So, I don't know if you knew this, Trey, but I was born in Texas. So that's why I'm a Cowboys. Obviously, I got representing the Mavericks here. I'm a Mavericks fan, Dallas area fan, and then I grew up here in Kansas City, in the Kansas City area. So, that's where my allegiance is, man. And I got nothing against Philly fans that are my personal friends, but did you see what happened in the streets of Philly? Should we not talk about that? Maybe
they some wild fans, bro. They some wild fans, bro. They always
throwing batteries at Santa Claus.
Philly is a hardcore city, bro. For their teams, they've always been like that. But yeah.
Just wild, man. I'm like, wow.
Bro, I gotta bounce off of here, man. But it was
real quick. Pastor Tom, just tell us where people can find you.
Okay,
talk about your event real quick. When it's going to happen? Flavor Fest 25 anniversary.
You guys can tap in with me on social media. Urban D 813, Urban D 813 on all the different platforms. If you want to check out my church, it's Crossover 813. On all the platforms as well. You can check us out on YouTube as well. We stream everything. And then, of course, Flavor Fest, the Urban Leadership Conference, Christian Hip Hop Music Festival, is going down November 6th through the 9th. And that is happening in Tampa, Florida. You could go to flavorfest.org and check it out. If you're watching this right now before March 7th and you're an artist submissions is open until March 7th. And after that, it's closed. All the slots will be filled. But yeah, there is an opportunity for indie artists to get a slot. And several people over the years have, gotten discovered and just had all kinds of great doors and opportunities open up for them. And so, so if you're an artist, if you're a pastor, if you're a church planter, if you're in youth ministry, if you run a nonprofit, if you're an entrepreneur, kingdom entrepreneur, there's so many great workshops that happen throughout the weekend and great general sessions. And it's going to be a big anniversary celebration, family reunion this year. So a lot of alumni are coming back. I hope y'all brothers will be there to celebrate with us. It's going to be a really memorable weekend. So we're excited. So flavorfest.org has all the details. And tap in with us, guys.
Will do, Trey.
Yeah. Well, Tommy, I know you got to go, bro. So good to see you again, man. As always, it's a pleasure.
Love you, man.
Likewise, man. Thank you, sir.
So my social media handle is at Trey9online, at TRE, the number 9 online. And also for the nonprofit organization, it's at Eyes on Me, just spelled properly, Eyes on Me Inc. At Eyes on Me INC. You can plug in, follow. Hopefully, you'll see some of the updates and the things that we're doing in the communities across Houston and beyond. Our website is eyesonmeinc.com, and it's just been a pleasure, man.
Likewise, man. Thank you.
What
Love
you
your
build?
setup too on your podcast. Huh?
Yeah, thank you. What you building in the back, by the way?
This is a obviously I'm in the basement, so a couple of rooms, bedroom right behind me. I got a bathroom over here to my left. I'm trying to build a studio space over here to my left as well. So
All right.
yeah, just got a couple things. Game room down here. Yeah,
Oh.
it's gonna be dope, man.
It's a blessing, man. It's good to
Yeah.
see you.
Likewise, it's been years, man.
It's
It's been years. I gotta get down to H-Town, man. So
Hey,
hold me accountable to that.
Yeah, for sure.
If you ever come up this way, man, let me know.
Kansas City,
Anywhere
huh?
near. Yeah, Kansas City. Yeah.
Okay, that's a bet.
Yeah, yes, sir. But yeah, man, appreciate you, Trey.
My pleasure.
And make sure y'all check them out, man. Both of them. I'm excited, man. Look,
Yeah.
Off the Grid, man. It's on and popping, man. I appreciate y'all joining us tonight. Or joining me, I should say. You guys joined me, so I appreciate it. Oh, I guess us for those that are listening.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you, man.
God bless you, bro.
God bless you. All right, peace.